Bar charts are an excellent way to compare different categories of data. The defaults that Matplotlib give are usable, but there are a lot of improvements that can be made to make your chart really pop. Let's take a look at what those improvements are. As always, we're starting with importing NumPy Pandas Matplotlib and setting our parameters. We'll be reading in our data using yearly number of objects launched. We're going to prepare the data by subsetting. We want entity and we want yearly launches. Those are the specific sections we're going to be looking at. We're going to group by entity by yearly launches, creating a new data frame from this. We're also making sure that we don't have world selected because that's a running total and that skews things and creates a duplicate of the data. So we don't want that one. In order to filter out the myriad smaller entities that had launched items, I decided to filter for all entities that had launched more than 133 objects rather than selecting the top 6. I just didn't feel like selecting top 6 for this one. We sort these from the smallest to largest values, and then we reset our index. Now our data frame is ready for us to move to the next step. The default bar plot here, specifically I'm looking at horizontal bar plots because it's easier to work with labels this way rather than the standard vertical, because when you have vertical, you have a very small amount of space where you're able to use your labels without turning them. And if you turn the labels, that adds cognitive load, which makes it harder to read. So we're starting with horizontal bar plots. The syntax here is pretty simple to create a bar plot. The default works, but there are a lot of extra elements that we don't need, and it's not highlighting the specific elements that we want to make sure our audience is looking at the very beginning. And as you can see, it works. It shows the differences by country. The numbers are there, the descriptors are all there. It makes sense, but there are a lot of improvements that we can make. So these are my modifications here. This is the code for how I created my bar plot with all the different items that I wanted to make sure it looked super amazing. This color list is making sure that the bar we want to call attention to is a distinct color from the rest of the bars. We're making sure that we're calling this list when we're creating our colors. We're removing a bunch of superfluous elements. And then we're also changing the labels, because if you put the numbers right next to the bars, you don't need the scale at the bottom because it's showing the same information, and it can be a little easier at a glance to see what the actual number is for that bar. You could also change it so that you're not showing the exact number, but you could make an approximation. So that's one way when you have very large numbers to make them more readable. You can call those right next to the bar, and then it's easier for the reader to see what they're looking at. This is the final product. As you can see, we have our title very big and obvious to tell the audience exactly what we want them to take away from this. This isn't just some random title. The title is very carefully chosen to tell a specific story. The bar chart is also going to be telling that same story as well. This is also why we have the United States bar highlighted as a different color, and the number is both larger and darker than the rest of the numbers for the rest of the individual bars. Down at the bottom, we have a descriptor of what these bars are representing, specifically that this is total launches by the end of 2022, because that's not necessarily stated in the title, but it's there so that they know what this is. That way we don't need to have a lot more extraneous objects on that chart. So the less items that are on there, the easier it is for people to figure out what they're looking at. And then your story is a lot quicker to tell, and it will stick a lot better as well. As always, please leave those questions down in the comments. I look forward to chatting with you there. To the stars!